One of the first hearings this subcommittee held during this Congress focused on the situation in Syria 2 years into its violent conflict. This will be our 10th hearing dedicated to examining the Syrian conflict, the precarious situation in Iraq, and the rise of ISIL. I wish I could say that we are here today to see how things have gotten better, but as we know, we can't say that. The common theme that we have seen in our previous 9 hearings is that the administration has failed to put together a coherent, a consistent, and decisive policies and strategies to address these threats. We have gone from remaining silent when the Syrian opposition first spoke out against Assad in March of 2011, before all the foreign fighters and the terrorist groups co-opted the anti-Assad campaign, to finally calling on Assad to step down 5 months after his brutal crackdown began, and back to remaining silent again and allowing Assad to remain in power. We remain on the sidelines, dithering and indecisive until President Obama laid down his now infamous red line on Syrian chemical weapons. As we know, Assad unleashed chemical weapons on his people, and that red line was crossed without any repercussions for Assad, damaging our credibility in the region. We now know Assad did not fully disclose all of its chemical weapons, materials, and stockpiles, and therefore that threat still remains. Now, after over 3 years of fighting in Syria, President Obama has decided to arm and train Syrian rebels, but not in the fight against Assad. And these rebels are supposed to fight against ISIL, but only in a defensive posture. I believe this strategy is a mistake. In the immediate aftermath of the fall of Mosul earlier this year, Secretary Kerry said that Mosul's fall took everyone by surprise. Yet 7 months before the fall, then Deputy Assistant Secretary Brett McCurk said, quote, ISIL has benefited from a permissive operating environment due to inherent weaknesses of Iraqi security forces, poor operational tactics, and popular grievances. It has also benefited from a sanctuary across the porous border in Syria, control of lucrative facilities there, such as oil wells, and regular movement of weapons and fighters between Syria and Iraq, end quote. He would go on to say that we knew the Iraqis lacked the equipment for the relentless and effective operations against ISIL in Iraq. So how is it that the President, the Secretary of State, and others in the administration can say that after Mosul fell, that it was a surprise? The President then authorized airstrikes in Iraq and eventually in Syria to target ISIL. This may be a case of too little, too late, because it's becoming evident that we need a stronger and broader approach. Our allies in the Gulf and the coalition are ready and eager to support us in the battle against ISIL, but they need to see a U.S. that is committed to the fight. They just aren't seeing that now, and expect a more comprehensive approach, which includes removing Assad from power. And that means addressing the Iranian issue. The Maliki government failed because it allowed Iran to exert undue influence over Iraq, which marginalized and angered the Sunni people in that country. Iran's support for Assad has kept that thug in power and has caused the Syrian conflict to continue and escalate, soon entering its 4th year. Our strategy to fight ISIL will not be effective if we don't have a comprehensive strategy that looks at Iraq, Syria, and ISIL linked together. In Iraq, thanks to the brave fighting from the Kurds and a new Iraqi government, we have been able to stall the progress of ISIL fighters. Iraqi forces have been able to drive out ISIL fighters from oil refineries seeking to take aim at ISIL's lifeline, its financial support. This terror group is well-financed, and we need to target its source of income as part of our comprehensive approach if we are to succeed. However, more needs to be done. The new Iraqi government must learn from the mistakes of Maliki and maintain stronger relations with the Kurds. One example can be helping in immediately rearming the Kurds. The Kurds have been fighting on the front lines against ISIL, and they are in real need of more weapons, ammunition, and supplies. But most importantly, the President needs a strategy that tackles the issues of Iraq, Syria, and ISIL together, because if not, the crisis will spill over across the Middle East and pose an even greater threat to U.S. national security interests.